Robert Siciliano with us today. He has over 30 years of experience in working to increase digital literacy in order to reduce cybercrime and increase personal security online. He helps learners adopt attitudes conducive to security, privacy, and safety. He is certified in professional investigations from Boston University. He has worked with NAR to create what we now know as the Realtor Safety Week and has helped other states get their classes certified for continuing education. He is also certified as an identity theft risk management specialist and is certified nationally as the architect of the CSI protection certification designation, which if you complete all 6 hours, you will earn. Is that correct, Robert?
That is correct.
This class qualifies. So I am going to turn it over to him and let him get started so that we stay on time, maybe have some extra breaks or get through a few minutes before noon.
Maybe.
So Robert, it is all yours.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everybody. I am from Boston, Massachusetts. So as we progress and as my voice gets a little tired, you'll hear that ridiculous accent that we have. And just so you know, I'm often asked, and my answer is always the same. I have never, ever parked a car in Harvard Yard ever. And I don't know why they asked me that question. So today's presentation is CSI protection. CSI is cyber social identity and personal protection. Today, we're going to discuss the personal protection and the cyber protection. And tomorrow is the identity theft protection and prevention and social media security and online reputation management. So my presentations are what I consider open forum. They're designed to be interactive. So at any given point in time, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have feedback, by all means, plug them into chat. I will see the chat window as it kind of flickers at me, and I'll make sure to answer your questions as best I can in real time. We'll probably have a break sometime between 10:15 and 10:30, and then we'll go to right before noontime, okay? All right, so getting right into it. All right, so the CSI protection certification, defend from hackers, attackers, and thieves. This is risk management and privacy protection for professionals and their clients, in this case, real estate agents. Risk, as you know, is something that we manage every day. Enhance your safety and security skills by working with clients by becoming competent in information security, identity theft prevention, social media security, personal and client protection, and scam fraud awareness training, as well as wire fraud prevention. As a certified CSI protection graduate, these are just a few of the member benefits, including the CSI protection hard copy and digital certificate of completion in digital logo files. So within a couple of weeks, you'll be getting this bad boy right here. That is your certificate of completion that, you know, you can put in your wall. A digital version you can email and post online. And then differentiation. So, you know, as a real estate agent, you want to, of course, get paid and make money. And so set yourself apart from other service professionals as a CSI protection designated graduate. Marketing materials, customizable and professional materials displaying the CSI protection commitment. So again, we'll be sending you out, you know, various logos that you can plug into your business cards, your marketing materials, and so forth, including the pro tips for home buyers and the pro tips for home sellers. These are the booklets that are based on a lot of the tips that we're going to be talking about today. Information that you essentially can and should communicate to your clients in a number of different ways. And then a monthly newsletter, stay on top of what is new and ahead of what is next at all times with all things safety and security. We will ping you once a month. And then a private Facebook group. So why CSI protection? Help yourself and help your clients. Protect yourself and your clients physically and digitally. Make sure you and your client transactions are made safe and secure, because right now they may not be. Improve you and your client interactions through fraud prevention and security awareness, and understand safe and appropriate social media practices, because, you know, what you put out there reflects on your brand, your company's brand, your clients, and so on. All right, so session 1, personal and client protection. So that's like the realtor safety aspect of things, personal protection, like violence prevention and theft prevention as well. And then session 2 is defending against the data breach, which will be after break today. Tomorrow, session 3 and 4, identity theft protection and prevention, and social media security, online reputation management. So session 1, we're going to get right into it. And again, this is open forum. Any questions, comments, feedback, by all means, just plug it into chat. All right. So look, there are way more than 3 types of people in this world, but for the purposes of this presentation, there are 3. This particular quote is from Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman's book on combat, adapted for the movie American Sniper with Chris Kyle. Amazing film, amazing guy, rest his soul, and adapted for this presentation here today. So there are 3 types of people in this world: sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs. Some people prefer to believe that evil doesn't exist in the world, and if it ever darkened their doorstep, they wouldn't know how to protect themselves. Those are the sheep. And by my estimates, probably, I would guess 90% of all people are essentially sheep. And then you've got predators who use violence and theft to prey on the weak. They, of course, are the wolves. And by my estimation, there's probably about 3% of the world's population are wolves. And I have stats to back it up. And then there are those blessed with the gift of situational awareness, maybe aggression, and overpowering need to protect the flock. Those are the rare breed who live to confront the wolf. They essentially are the sheepdog. And by my guesstimates, I would say that probably about 7% of the world's population, by their nature, they just got that mama bear built in, and they have never let it go. It's always been there and will always be there. They're about 7% of the world's population, okay? The goal of this presentation is to, I guess, enhance, increase, fortify, or in some cases, wake up that sheepdog or that mama bear that you have in you, all right? All right, so let's talk about security appreciation versus security awareness. We're going to go through this really quick so that you can kind of formulate in your mind's eye what security is and isn't, dispel a few myths revolving around security and so on. Okay, so security leaders' job number 1 is to reshape cultural views of security. That's my job. My job is to reshape what your views of security are. And now this quote right here: a lack of security appreciation contributes to poor security awareness. So what does that mean? Well, let's talk about appreciation. Let's define appreciation really quick. Appreciation essentially is a noun. It is the recognition and enjoyment of the good qualities of someone or something. So when you appreciate something, you're more likely to engage in it, to do something about it. You care about it. It matters to you. It's a heart-based thing. You appreciate someone, right? You provide them a certain level of attention. You appreciate what they do for you. There's a certain level of love there. Appreciation is like a really important thing we have in our life, right? If we don't feel appreciated, we feel slighted. If we feel appreciated, we feel warmth and love. Okay, appreciation is a really good thing. All right, security appreciation is a great thing. And then the second part of the definition of appreciation is a full understanding of a situation. All right, well, so for security awareness, my understanding of it is, or my view of it is, it's head versus heart. So security awareness is head-based. It is your understanding of that, you probably should lock the doors to your house. It's your understanding of that it would be a good idea to have a home security system. It's your understanding that a self-defense program is probably a good thing to do. It's your understanding that, not all clients are who they say they are, and some could be predators, right? It's your recognition that there is risk. That's, security awareness. Security appreciation, on the other hand, is that not only are you aware of these things, but you do something about them. For example, when you show a property, you want to do something about it. You position yourself in the house at all times so that your back is to the exit, so that the client is never behind you. So you're not in a compromised position in the basement or in the attic. It's your understanding of, home security, and that you have that home security system, and you do lock your doors, and you have taken a self-defense class, and you understand risk in such a way where it means something and it matters something to you, and you are consistently doing something about it because you want to do something about it. Okay, not because you're afraid or because you're paranoid. It's because you recognize risk in such a way where, you want to make sure that your family, your clients, your money, your data is protected at all times. Okay. So the difference between awareness and appreciation fundamentally is awareness is you are aware of it and you know about it. Appreciation is not only are you aware about it and you know about it, but you do something about it and it matters to you at the heart level. So let's talk about the seatbelt really quick. The seatbelt's been around for 54 years. It's been around for a lot longer than that, maybe about 75 years. And it's actually been required to be installed in vehicles in the United States since 1968, which is 54 years. And really, in our culture, we've only been wearing the seatbelt at this point for probably about 15, 20 years. Prior to that, I remember my dad, when he had a car when we were growing up, I remember he cut the seatbelts out of the car. He's like, what do we need these things for? Now you wouldn't think to not wear your seatbelt. And statistically, like 84% of all people actually wear their seatbelt. And that's because people at this point recognize risk in a vehicle, know that people are out there driving kind of crazy. And then if you don't have that seatbelt on and you get in a car accident, you could end up, going through the windshield, getting really hurt, getting killed. You lose control over the vehicle should a deer run across the street, and you end up in the passenger seat because you swerve so hard and so on. And you recognize that the seatbelt gives you control, okay? And you wear the seatbelt because you're smart, right? You don't wear it because you're paranoid or you're afraid or you're scared, right? So this entire program is like a seatbelt for your personal security. And then home security system. Let's talk about that really quick. So whenever I do a poll, talk to a large audience or whatever, I ask my audience, like, how many of you actually have a home security system installed? Like one that monitors doors and windows, glass break sensors, motion sensors. It will call the police in case of the problem. And generally, I find that probably about maybe at the most 20% of my audiences have a home security system, which means like 80% of, houses across the country don't actually have a home security system. And did you know that, well, on average, every year, between 1.5 and 2 million homes are burglarized every single year. That means in the next 10 years that between 15 and 20 million homes will be burglarized. So think about that. So whenever I ask people, like, why don't you have a home security system? And you know what they often say to me? Like, oh, I don't want to live like that, or I don't want to be paranoid. Like they think that a home security system is going to make them mentally ill. Because if you know anything about paranoia or people who are paranoid, which I have an intimate relationship with people who are paranoid, I have family, and, like they are diseased, they're overwhelmed, they're out of control, they're mentally ill. And I mean, it's really hard to be around people like that. And it's tough to see them like that because they're so afraid, they're so scared. They think there's people out to get them at all times. And paranoia really is the complete opposite of security in the sense that security is about being in control, whereas paranoia is medically out of control. So, a home security system isn't going to make you paranoid. It's going to give you control. It's a good thing to do. But then when I ask people, like, how many of you live in a safe neighborhood? And often, depending on where I'm presenting the program, as many as like 80% of the room will raise their hand and go, yeah, I live in a safe neighborhood. And I'm like, really? So that means that you are safe, which if you ever watch baseball, you're either out or you're safe. And my understanding is of the word safe is it is an absolute. You are safe or you are safer, right? Or you're unsafe. So do you live in a safe neighborhood or a safer neighborhood? And the reality of it is that, like, if you think you live in a safe neighborhood, you really probably live in a safer neighborhood, which means that bad things still do happen, but not nearly as frequent as in other neighborhoods. So keeping that in mind, if you read the police blotter in the area in which you live, right, you'll know that probably once a week or once every couple of weeks or once a month, at least every 6 months, definitely every year, there's a burglary or a home invasion or something that bad happens in that neighborhood. So it's a safer neighborhood. But people in our society, in our country, we function under the belief that, these things can't happen to me. They only happen in other neighborhoods, that I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be paranoid, And instead of actually doing something about security, not just being aware of it, but appreciating it, embracing it, instead, most people function in a state of denial. And what that means is, denial is a defense mechanism. A denial functions as a way to protect you from experiencing anxiety. In some cases, it might be a way to avoid dealing with stress or painful emotions. By refusing to deal with or even admit that there is something wrong or that there's risk, you are trying to prevent facing stress, conflict, threats, fears, and anxieties. See, people think that if they were to acknowledge that there is risk, if they were to install a home security system, if they were to recognize that as a real estate agent, you are potentially vulnerable, that they will be overwhelmed with fear and anxiety and threats and so forth. But that's just not true. So we as a culture, we, instead of embracing security, appreciating it, we function in a state of denial. We're aware of it, but we deny it's even a problem at all. And with real estate agents specifically, you are painfully optimistic professionals. I mean, it's good to be optimists. I'm an optimist too, right? But I also know how to manage risk. But real estate agents, being optimists, like, they don't know where their next buck is coming from. You have to be an optimist to be in this trade, in this profession. And so, real estate agents, more than any other profession, being at risk, say, oh, it can't happen to me, and do almost nothing about it. So I think it's important to understand security, understand the difference between security awareness and security appreciation, recognize what paranoia is and isn't, recognize denial, and don't be that. Okay, so security needs to be everyone's business. And while it may not be your ultimate role and responsibility, it is a part of your job description. Corporations and government agencies, like you, are directly responsible for protecting personal information and the physical security of yourself by their consumers. So measures must be taken to increase awareness in the everyday IT and physical environments. The most critical step to changing user behavior is to build a secure-minded culture from the ground up. And that's the attempt of this program. And to create this culture, all employees should be educated and tested on security threats and how their day-to-day computer use and physical security and behavior can affect their organization's security posture. So as long as you do smart things, as long as you embrace the information and the ideology we're discussing today, you're going to be fine. I don't worry about any of this stuff, but I do something about it. And that's the importance of what we're talking about today. All right, so a few buzzwords, definitions, pitfalls that people fall into that put them more at risk. So if you are what might be considered a fatalist, a defeatist, or a pessimist, then, see if you recognize yourself in this. The view that we are powerless to do anything, an attitude of resignation in the face of events which are thought to be inevitable. So, for example, I spoke to a bunch of real estate agents in New Hampshire very recently, and I asked, how many of you have a home security system and why don't you have one installed? And one of the agents raised her hand and said, we don't have a home security system. My husband says that, why bother installing one? If they're going to break in, they're going to break in. They can get in no matter what. Well, that's not necessarily true. If they want to break in, if you fortify it properly, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get in. You can make it difficult for them. That's number one. Number two, why would you just allow them to break in and make it easy for them? Like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you make it hard? Why wouldn't you make it difficult? Why wouldn't you give yourself a chance? If you're sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody breaks into your house and they come to the edge of your bed with a gun or a knife, you could be like, oh yeah, we were kind of expecting you. Like, we knew that, like, if you wanted to break in, you were going to break in. So we've done nothing to make it hard for you. So, hey, are you going to kill me now? Like, that's kind of stupid, don't you think? Like, why wouldn't you want to do everything possible to make sure that that scenario doesn't happen? So that fatalist attitude doesn't work for me, and it shouldn't work for you either. Okay. Defeatism is the acceptance of defeat without struggle, often with negative connotations. It can be linked to pessimism in psychology, right? Fatalist, defeatist. And pessimism, of course, is a mental attitude. Pessimists anticipate undesirable outcomes from a given situation. So if you resonate with any of that, stop. It's as simple as that. Okay. All right. So moving on. Yeah, this is unfortunate, right? So I mean, it's awful. It's more than unfortunate. The 911 call came in from a real estate agent in a model home in suburban Maryland. The first sound heard by the 911 dispatch was heavy breathing by somebody in distress. It was the real estate agent on the phone while this jackass right here, there he is over there with the money on his face. I actually took that photo off of his Facebook page the day after he murdered the real estate agent in suburban Maryland. It was a male in his mid-30s, married, couple young kids, you know. The 911 operator asked what was wrong, no answer. Then a voice came off in the background, this guy, where's the money? Who are you talking to? And then shots rang out, bang, bang, bang. This guy, this jerk, all hopped up on drugs, right? Sees the open house, you know, sees the model home, sees the agent walk in there, guy by himself. You know, he's like, oh, you know, hey, I'm sure I can get some money out of him. Shoots and kills him. For what? Robbery was the motive, law enforcement said. They said that impulse meant opportunity. Impulse meaning he was all hopped up on drugs. The killer stole the agent's cell phone and laptop computer. So understand that this is what you're dealing with. And when I say this is what you're dealing with, meaning like you're dealing with mentally unstable people, men or women, that look upon you as their natural prey. They look upon you as an opportunity to get paid, generally to satisfy a drug habit. That's not always the case, but it is often the case. And understand that this is what you're dealing with. Like this moron in this photograph, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with idiots. They're not well thought out. They're not well planned out. They're very impulsive by their nature. And the moment that somebody like that comes into your life, there's always going to be something about them in that situation that is going to be alarming. Now, it might immediately appear that something is wrong because they have a gun or a knife and they're threatening you, but it might not be immediately apparent. They might be odd or incongruent in some way. They might be perfectly clean cut. They might be disheveled. They might make you feel something is wrong. And that's really the most important thing. So the moment that you feel something is wrong, something is wrong. And we'll discuss intuition and how that plays into this momentarily. The main message here is that we need to take agent safety seriously. And when something seems wrong, something is wrong, and you always have options. So in this particular scenario with this agent, when the guy walked in with the gun, right? The guy walks in with the gun and he's pointing a gun right at the agent's face. What does the agent do? He picks up his cell phone and calls 911. Now that makes the bad guy think that he's going to get arrested. Bang, bang, bang. Now, 2020 hindsight is a luxury that you and I have right now to discuss, you know, what could the agent have done differently? Well, obviously, first and foremost, the victim is never responsible for what happens to them, but they are in the best position to prevent it. So what could the agent have done differently? I think that if he didn't use his cell phone, that he may not have been shot and killed. Okay, that's an option. If he had, you know, if he had like an app on his phone and hit like a panic button, which called 911, and, you know, maybe somebody in his life that had an idea of where he was that day, that might have been an option. Would it have saved him? Would it have prevented something? Would they have caught the guy? None of us know that. What is the best option in this particular scenario? Guy's pointing a gun at you. Now, I know that you have an idea of what your option might be, and I'm asking you right now in chat, tell me right now, what could the agent have done differently to survive this particular situation? And I'm going to sit here in total silence until you answer me. So please, in chat, tell me what the agent could have done differently in this particular scenario. Okay. So I'm looking for chat. I don't see anybody adding anything to chat. What could have the agent done differently when the guy is pointing the gun in his face? If you have no idea, say, I have no idea. If you have an idea, plug in what your idea might be. So what could the agent have done differently? Give the person money, Thank you. I believe it's Giara. Yeah, that is an option. He could have taken out his wallet and thrown it in one direction. And I know we have a lot more people than one on this call, on this webinar. So what else, or in addition to that, or even if that's your answer, what could the agent have done differently, or in addition to, that might have resulted in satisfying the bad guy, getting out of there, whatever the case is? Like how could the agent have survived otherwise? And I'm going to sit here and wait for more answers. Come on now. I'm just going to sit here, unless everybody's walked out of the room, and you're not going to get CE if you don't answer. So come on now. Anyone? You're not going to give me anything? I don't think anybody else is there. Okay. Christine, just give them what they want: money, computer, etc. Comply with demands. Yeah. Thank you, Kyra. Thank you, Christine. Okay. One more. Okay. Great. Thank you, Rhonda. Been proactive before, got to the showing, checking the person out on forewarn or some other means, then giving them what they want. Sure. In this case, forewarn wouldn't have been an option due to the fact that the guy just walked in the door with the guns blazing. Have another agent with them, Christine. That's a good idea. So nobody said, and thank you, everyone. Nobody said run. Nobody said run. Why wouldn't you say run? Guy's got a gun on you. Why wouldn't you run? And throwing the items in the opposite direction and then run. Yes. Thank you, Rhonda. So look I think that when we watch television, we watch movies, we see when there's a scenario or a scene and the guy's got a gun on somebody, what do people do? They freeze up, or they pull some type of kung fu move on the bad guy. But most of the time they give control to the bad guy. They give up. You have a gun on me, you can hurt me, so I'll do whatever you say. Like that right there is just the movies. That's not reality. And what I mean is, studies show that in scenarios like this, when somebody has a gun on you, that more than 9 out of 10 people get away with their lives. So statistically, the chances of you getting shot and hit and killed by that bullet as you run, as you separate yourself from the end of the barrel of the gun, there's like a 96% chance you can get away with your life. I think that's a good stat. If you had the opportunity to play the lottery and you had a 96% chance of winning, would you play? Of course you would. So if you have an opportunity to get away from the end of the barrel of a gun and not get shot and hit by the bullet and killed, would you run? If you have a 96% chance of getting away, I think that you would. So that said, run. It's an option. Okay. All right. So she was just a woman that worked alone. A rich broker said, quote, Aaron Lewis, in response to questions about his motives for murdering a real estate agent in Arkansas back in 2014. I'm sure some of you have heard about her story. By all, standards, an attractive woman in her 50s. I think she had blonde hair. Her photo was like blingy jewelry, and this guy, Aaron Lewis, calls her up. Hey, I'm interested in some properties, starts working with her over the course of a day, and he ended up murdering her by the end of the day. Again, 2020 hindsight affords us the luxury of saying, what could she have done differently? So without knowing exactly what they did or where they went or, what transpired or what the dialogue was, what we know is a couple things. Number one, based on what Aaron Lewis said, she was just a woman that worked alone, a rich broker. Based on that statement, I think it's possible that we can deduce that Aaron Lewis is a moron. He's an idiot, right? And how do I know that? Because if you sum up a person's entire life based on a photograph, meeting with her. Okay, woman working alone, sure. There's some vulnerability there. That's common sense. Rich broker. Okay, is she a rich broker? Or is she, a hardworking real estate agent that might have a few bucks in the bank? One or the other, okay? But when he says rich broker, so by saying that, what he's thinking is, in his mind, oh, she's just a woman working alone, a rich broker. I attack her, I kill her, I get all of her riches. I'm going to get all her money by attacking her. She's a rich broker. So therefore, I go after her and her money. I will be rich instead. That's where he's coming from. Moron. That's what you're dealing with. Now, my observation at 54 years on this planet is that when I meet up with idiots, when I meet up with morons, when I meet up with people that have bad intentions, okay, my body tells me something is wrong. My body says something about that person is off, incongruent. Something about what they say, how they say it, their facial expressions, their body language, their eye contact does not add up to me. And more than anything, when I meet people in the course of this life, I meet you one-on-one, whatever, we're in the same vicinity of each other. We're communicating at some level, right? Face-to-face in this case. If you have bad intentions, I think I'm going to feel that. If you mean to do me harm, I think I'm going to know. I think my body's going to go, whoa, like, I don't know, like they're saying something to me. They're talking to me. They're smiling at me. They're saying these things to me, but something about what they're saying, like, or their presence, like I feel something is wrong. Why? Because they're lying to me. If they mean to do me harm, it doesn't matter what they say. They're lying to me. And their eyes are going to dart in a certain way, and their faces are going to contort in a certain way, and their energy is going to be sour. It's going to be negative. Now, if I meet you and you have all nothing but good intentions, and you like my suit, and you have nice things to say, and you're just like, generally like interested in, saying hello and meeting me and shake my hand or whatever, and we have eye contact, you smile at me, and like, you have nothing bad, no bad intentions, like you're giving off a positive vibe. I'm going to feel like, oh, this is like a good person. I don't have anything to worry about here. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, I love you, but I'm going to be like, oh yeah, nothing to fear, nothing to worry about, nothing incongruent, nothing wrong, So I think that this agent in Arkansas who was murdered, I think that like at certain points of the time during the day, maybe like immediately, but definitely throughout the day, I think that like she definitely felt something was wrong. I do. I believe that. Do I know that for a fact? No, nobody ever will. But I think that she felt something was wrong. The guy was a moron. He was an idiot. Like there's no way that she didn't feel that he may not really be looking to buy a house. He might have bad intentions. And I think that when she felt that, saying that, I believe that she did, when she felt that, I think that what she did is she denied those feelings that she had. I think that she, instead of recognizing risk, instead of considering that maybe she's in the presence of somebody that might want to hurt her, somebody who could potentially be evil, I think that instead of recognizing that she went into a state of denial and said, oh, I'm just being silly. This guy's fine. Like he's a little odd. He's, different, but no, he's not like a murderer or anything, And so she just went on with her day and just kind of dealt with it because that's the nature of the job, she thinks. When something seems wrong, something is wrong. And I'm pretty positive that something felt wrong that day and she didn't do anything about it until it was too late. We're going to give you a few more examples of what that might look like and how you can make sure that if ever you feel like something is wrong, you're going to do something about it pretty quickly. Okay. And thank you everybody for participating. I might ask you to do that again. So please pay attention. All right. So inside the mind of a predator, let's talk about bad guys for a few moments. So Inside Edition, what's that all about? So I was part of the Realtor Safety Initiative team that launched Realtor Safety Week back in the early 2000s. And NAR sent out a press release talking about agent safety and how many agents are murdered, which is like 1 to 2 annually, which I don't even think it's that much, but on average, I guess. And then like 60,000 or so are accosted in some way or felt like really uncomfortable, raped, robbed, assaulted, whatever. I don't even know if it's that much, but okay. And so we sent out a press release and talked about agent safety and, risks that they face. And the show Inside Edition picked up on it. And they called me and said, hey, we want to interview you. And, how do you talk about realtor safety? And so they came to a presentation I did for the Women's Council of Realtors. They showed me teaching self-defense and talking about agent safety. And ultimately, they had a victim. You know how those shows go, like you have an expert, you have the victim. They had a victim who was a female agent in her 50s, worked in South Florida, and she worked on high-end properties. And her story went, which she told on national television, she said on TV, so yeah, like the guy comes in the house on a Sunday with his wife and kids tagging along. I got to know the wife and kids. They seemed to be nice. And then, they left. Everything was fine. A few days later, he called me up and he said, hey, I'm the guy that came on Sunday with the wife and kids. Oh yeah, I remember you. And I'd like to see this house. Could I come by, say tomorrow night? And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll make sure the homeowner is gone. And so the agent sets up a time. The guy comes over. And the homeowner was gone for the afternoon. And the agent said, I opened up the door and there he is. And she said on national television, as soon as I saw him, she said, the hair in the back of my neck stood on end. My gut started to feel funny. I felt nervous and I didn't know why. That's exactly what she said on national television. And then she said, but I let him in anyways. And so he comes in, he's walking around asking questions. And she's like, and I kept feeling something was wrong. And she said, but I didn't want to say anything to the guy. I didn't want to upset him. I didn't want to do anything to potentially lose the sale. She didn't have any concrete, hard proof that something was wrong. So she said, then he made it up to the second floor bedroom. He went into the master bedroom. And she said, he called me from inside the bedroom, inside the closet. And there was a panel on the back wall. And she said that he said to her, hey, do you know what's behind this panel in the closet? I'm trying to get it off the wall. And she said, oh, I'll be sure to ask the homeowner. And he said, well, because he persisted, if I'm going to make an offer on this house today, I want to get the panel off the wall now. Would you mind coming in the closet and helping me? And she said on national television, I was so scared, but I went in the closet anyways. And then he put a gun to the back of her head, tied her hands and feet and mouth up with duct tape, ransacked the house. And fortunately, that's all that happened to her. Now, here's the deal. Maybe yesterday, you would do the exact same thing. And you're like, no, I wouldn't. I think that you would. And here's why. Because if you don't see a gun, you don't see a knife, you don't see an immediate threat, you want to believe that the person who is in your presence is good. You don't want to think you're in the presence of pure evil. Then you are likely to do nothing about it and just deny your actual feelings. I'm telling you, that's what you would do, coupled with the fact that, what are your options? Your options really are to leave the house. I mean, you don't see a gun, you don't see a knife, but you really should just leave the house. And when I say leave the house, I mean, leave the house, go outside, get in your car, get out of there. And you're like, you mean leave the house and leave the guy in the closet in the house while I walk out? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're like, but I can't do that because I'm responsible. Well, how responsible are you actually? What actually are you responsible for? Ultimately, I mean, ultimately, you're really ultimately in that scenario responsible for yourself and your well-being. Okay. The house, so you leave the guy in the house. If there's nothing wrong and he walks out, where'd you go? Oh yeah, I had to make a phone call from your car. Okay. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Yeah. I got to go. I have another appointment, whatever, or I'll have my people call your people, whatever. The hardest thing for you is going to be engaging in the process of being irresponsible. And irresponsible means leaving the house. That's hard for you to do because you are responsible. And because you're responsible, it's easier for you to go in a state of denial and deny that there's a bad guy in your presence than it is to be irresponsible. And in the future, if something seems wrong, you have to know that something probably is wrong. And being responsible is being irresponsible to the home, to the buyer, but being responsible to yourself. Okay. Trust me on this one. Look, the chance of something like this ever happening to you in the course of your life is like next to nothing, but there's a chance. And because there's a chance, you need to know what your options are. All right. So 1 in 100, what is that? I had that happen. I walked out the door and started talking to the neighbors so they would know I was there. Thank you, Jara. Yeah, I mean, you know, like it's not the first time, it's not the last time, right? Hopefully it never happens to you again, right? But if it does, even if you're wrong, so what? You left the guy in the house, big deal, you know, no harm, no foul, right? So 1 in 100, what is that? Well, studies show that as many as 1 in 100 people suffer from something called antisocial personality disorder, sociopath, psychopath, some heavy duty form of narcissism. I think it's actually more than that. I'm betting it's anywhere from between 3 and 4%. And then 859,000 is what? That is registered sex offenders in the US. So there are 859,000 registered sex offenders in the US. That is obviously an astonishing figure. There are about 19,500 incorporated cities and towns in the US. That equates to over 17,000 sex offenders per state, which is an average of 44 sex offenders per town. Okay. This is just one segment of what I consider our increasingly predatory population. So I did a presentation in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, when that realtor in suburban Maryland was murdered. And I pulled out an app live for the audience called Offender Locator. And I did a quick, scan search for the zip code for Annapolis, Maryland, Richmond, Virginia, and Washington, DC. And all those little red dots are sex offenders in the immediate area that we were in relation to that zip code. What's the point of that? The point is sex offenders are everywhere. Am I telling you this because I want you to be full of fear? No, that would be dumb. Sex offenders have been around for hundreds or thousands of years, since the beginning of time, okay? And we've only really started documenting them over the past, 20, 30 years. And just knowing that, there's a million plus, registered in or unregistered or haven't been caught yet out there, you got to know, like, that's a significant part of our population. Should you be fearful of this? No, but you should acknowledge it. Because fundamentally and frankly, not everybody is as nice as, say, you, right? And if something seems wrong, something is wrong because not everybody is right. All right, so violence is as American as apple pie, says H. Rat Brown, and we love violence in this country. Violence is murder and robbery, it's rape and suicide, stalking, bomb threats, fights, sabotage, verbal abuse, sexual harassment, obscene threatening calls, letters, and emails, right? Benjamin Franklin once said that to be safe is never to be secure. Seems like it contradicts itself. What does that actually mean? Well, it means that if you want to be safe, if you want to be secure, you always have to be aware. You always have to be alert. You always have to be essentially on your toes, especially like selling a house, right? Especially at an open house, especially with people who you don't know, especially if you're on your way to a basement or an attic and so forth, right? It means that security never sleeps. It means that security is 24/7, 365. It means that security is a process. It's a journey. It's not necessarily a destination, and there's no such thing as 100% security. And as long as you engage in basic security practices, you're going to be fine in general. What it really fundamentally means is that if you think like, okay, I am 100% safe, well, then, you're vulnerable because you're not doing anything to protect yourself. It has nothing to do with paranoia and has everything to do with just trusting your gut, paying attention to your surroundings, and reacting or being proactive in regards to all things vulnerability, security, and so on. Okay. Security 101. Security fundamentally is protecting people from violence and theft, from predators and thieves. Security is layered. It is like if you do all these different things, like a bank has multiple layers of security. They have the bank building, which is locked. They have glass break sensors, motion sensors, sensors on the windows and the doors, all layers of protection. They have signage, video surveillance. They have panic buttons in the bank for the tellers should they be robbed. They have the vault, which has multiple layers of protection and so forth. The more things that you do, the more secure you're going to be. All right, layers of protection. I say security is safety with an attitude. So both safety and security are attitudes of vigilance and determination. Really, that your attitude is nothing bad is going to happen under my watch as long as I am paying attention and doing something about it. So awareness, what is that? Situational awareness. It's being aware of, body language, your body language, others' body language. Is anybody paying any unwanted attention to you? Are they acting in a physical or an aggressive manner? Your body language. Is your head slumped over, your shoulders slumped over? As you're walking down the street, do you look like a victim? Or is your chin up, your shoulders back, looking to the right, looking to the left, and paying attention to what's going on around you? Your surroundings. Situational awareness is knowing what's going on 50 to 100 feet at all times around the perimeter of your body, which is really simple, actually. Just paying attention, being alert, being aware, not stepping in something. Knowing what's going on behind you is occasionally like what's going on behind you. We become very complacent. As we grow older, we feel safe in our environments and we're less apt to be conscious of, the situation around us. And I think it's really important that you maintain that level of awareness for a number of reasons. You see so much of the good that life has to offer you. And for your safety and security, you also see more of the bad. Now, awareness is a natural ability. And like all natural abilities, awareness can be enhanced and improved. And my philosophy is once you accept the fact that your everyday environment can be dangerous, then I think you would automatically want to or automatically sharpen your senses. Million sex offenders, wackos and weirdos all over the place, dumb people that attack for a fix, whatever. Like, you should know what's going on around you. Not because you're afraid, not because you're paranoid, because, like that seatbelt you put on because you're smart, because you want to reduce risk. You want to pay attention to what's going on around you because you're smart. You want to reduce risk. If you got a child out and about, a daughter going off to college, you're going to tell her, honey, pay attention. Know where you're going. Know what's going on behind you. Take a self-defense course. Be careful consuming alcohol when you're out at frat parties because, studies show 1 out of 4 girls going off to college get sexually assaulted. You're not going to tell her, look, if you're going to get sexually assaulted, just let it happen so it doesn't get any worse. That would be a fatalist attitude. You're going to tell her, fight, kick, bite, scream, get out of there. Do what you got to do to not get in that situation in the first place. Take control of yourself in the situation, empower. And then potential dangers. What are potential dangers? Potential dangers are anything that's out of place in your physical environment. It's something, a door ajar, it's a window propped open, it's a broken window. It's somebody paying unwanted attention to you. It's a phone call that you might get or your office might get that says, hey, and this actually happened. Hey, I'd like to see vacant properties and I want female agents to show me those properties. Really, buddy? Like, that actually happened in Massachusetts not too long ago when somebody did a caller ID, found out where the guy was staying. He was at a local motel and they, went to the guy's room, knocked at his door and found out that, when they ran his information, he was a unregistered parolee, a sex offender. And they arrested him because he didn't register in the new town that he was staying at. And, that's how dumb they are sometimes. Yeah. All right. So, sixth sense, which is, your intuition. Trust your gut. If something seems wrong, something is wrong. And we call it mother's intuition, women's intuition, but the reality of it is we all have it. I think that women are more in tune in that regard, mainly because they, throughout our history, women have always had the caretaker role while the men was out hunting, gathering, whatever it is, whereas women were more in tune with other beings. I mean, heck, if you can actually, give birth, you are more in tune with other human beings. There's a connection there that men just don't have. Okay. So that intuition for both men and women can be enhanced in regards to your personal security by utilizing 2 techniques that I discussed there: what ifs and visualization. What if, as I'm showing this property, this person decides to attack me? Ooh, awful. Like, why would you want to what if that? But you should. especially if something feels wrong or seems wrong. And then you visualize something potentially going wrong. You visualize you getting attacked. You visualize somebody grab you from behind. You visualize going into the basement, something bad happening, and so forth. And as you're what-ifing and asking these questions and visualizing these, compromising scenarios, you begin to do something about it. And as you do something about it, essentially you are, embracing security. You're appreciating the value security provides you. You're doing something about it. Okay. What ifs, visualization, trusting your intuition. Okay. Fight or flight. It's said that in human communications, that as much as 90% of communications are what's considered nonverbal. Nonverbal means, body language, facial expressions, eye contact. It means voice, the tone of your voice, and that less than 10% of communications are actually in the words that we use. So words get all their meaning and impact from, body language, facial expressions, eye contact, tone of voice. That said, there are only a few words that work in regards to repelling an attacker. Words like help and rape do nothing. Words like fire and 911 might do something like bring attention to the situation, but really aren't really all that effective. Words like stop and no are power words and can actually stop your attacker in their tracks for a moment or two. And then there's profanities. Profanities color the way in which we view people when they weave them in and out of conversation. Well, think about a time, if ever, in your life where you might have screamed profanities and anger and what your facial expressions and body language and tone of voice were like. You are offensive when you're like that. And screaming profanities and anger at your attacker, sets them back a bit. They don't quite know what they got themselves into. When they choose you because they think you're weak and frail. They think you're vulnerable. They think you're like a cute, furry, cuddly little kitty cat. But think about that cat that doesn't want to be picked up. And that kid that doesn't understand the cat doesn't want to be picked up. And what does that kid look like 5-10 minutes later? He's all scratched up, his face, his chin, his neck, his arms and chest and so forth. Because when the cat wants to get down, the cat always gets away. You act like that kitty cat that doesn't want to be picked up and get, ferocious like an alley cat, yelling and screaming and scratching and biting, you get a much better chance of getting away. And then fear and panic. So some of you, by your nature, you are fearful and you panic and you are easily surprised. My wife is like that. And so I adopted what I call the Pink Panther technique in our relationship 20 years ago. If you remember the movies, Inspector Clouseau had his butler Cato surprise attack him in every film. The inspector would come home, he'd walk in the house, and before you know it, Cato is jumping on top of him. Specifically because Inspector Clouseau understood that the element of surprise was his greatest enemy. So for years, I would surprise attack my wife and now my daughters. Now I've taught them all self-defense. And let me tell you something, I don't do that anymore. Or if I'm going to give them a boo, I do it from a distance because they have hurt me in a number of different ways. And I'm cool with it, because they should feel empowered when they feel fear. They should feel like they want to lunge forward opposed to retract back and, get all fearful. And that's what they do. All right. Civilized conditioning. What's it all about? So the question then becomes, right now, I ask you, if somebody was to walk up to you and start, beating on you, grab you by the throat, how many of you know what you'd do? How many of you already have a plan of action? How many of you would be able to respond to your attacker? What you'd do right now, you'd respond and react to your attacker right now. What would you do? How many of you would respond? Usually when I ask that question in a room full of 100 people, maybe 10, 15% of the room raises their hand. I know what I do. 10, 15% of the room raises their hand. Most people, 85 or so percent, 90% just don't know what they do, And then I ask them, I say, hey, so how many of you love someone, whether it's a spouse, a parent, a child? All right, let's just say it's a kid, right? Let's just say you're walking down the street with your child or niece or nephew, and somebody walks up to them and grabs that child around the throat and starts beating on them. And I ask, how many of you would dive on that attacker without a second thought? Raise your hand. And every single time, 100% of the room raises their hand. Why is that? Why is it that when it comes to protecting others, we're all like, yes. But when it comes to protecting ourselves, we're like, I don't know what I do. Why is that? That is civilized conditioning. Civilized conditioning is what your mom and dad taught you and or you teach your kids on how to be civil towards one another in a civilized society. Basically, what it means is that, number one, you keep your hands to yourself. You don't hit, hurt, harm others. You say please and thank you. You give hugs and kisses. You are good to others. You are trustworthy and so on. And all that civilized conditioning is really good, but it suppresses our instinctual need to protect ourselves. But when it comes to protecting others, that whole mama bear thing kicks in. That instinctual need to protect others is always there in us, especially after you have children, right? It really comes alive. But that whole protective instinct, that whole sheepdog thing, we all have that to a certain degree. But that civilized conditioning in our society suppresses our instinctual needs for survival. So I ask you to recognize that and to do something about it, to meditate on what would you do if somebody actually attacked you, and how would you react and how would you respond, and see it in your mind's eye and see exactly what you do. Yeah. All right. Security really goes against our core beliefs. It just does. Security means, in order to engage in security practices, it means that you don't trust people. It means that at some level you recognize that there are predators and thieves out there that are not to be trusted. And our core beliefs are that really 97% of all people are trustworthy. And because of that fact, many of us by default, we just trust everybody. Maybe not everybody, but in general. And so our core beliefs are to trust. And that really makes it difficult in situations like yours when you are, meeting a complete stranger, but have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And even when you start feeling, uneasy, many times you're unlikely to do something about it because you don't want to believe you're in the presence of pure evil. It's that head in the sand mentality, that thinking it can't happen to me. It's functioning in denial. And fundamentally, many of us are just too nice. Most people are just generally nice and trustworthy. And that being too nice prevents us from taking action. It prevents us from doing something about it. It prevents us from, making the right decision when it comes to, avoiding a dangerous situation. And what I want you to do is become an observer of the human condition. What does that mean? It means, recognize risk. It means understanding people. It means paying attention to others. It means if somebody means to do you harm, they're going to be sending off a negative vibe, pick up on that vibe and do something about it. It means if somebody just does not seem right to you, they seem incongruent, they don't seem truthful to you, pay attention to that. Become an observer of the human condition. All right. Okay. So self-defense. We're going to get into self-defense now and realtor safety, and then we'll take our break. So scenario-based adrenal stress training teaches you how to function under adrenal stress. So what's that all about? So self-defense programs out there called FAST, Impact, Model Mugging, right? These are programs that essentially are designed to teach you how to defend yourself under adrenal stress. So in class, you learn the self-defense techniques over the course of a Friday afternoon into the evening, a Saturday, and a Sunday. And over those 3 days, you're learning all these different self-defense techniques, but you're also practicing those self-defense techniques on a padded mugger. What does that mean? It means the mugger is an actual guy in a jumpsuit with a big, protected head, and he's got pads all underneath the jumpsuit, and you get to hit him throughout the day. But before hitting him, you're kind of squaring off with him. You're kind of like on the mat, like you and him and he walks up to you and kind of pushes you. Hey, you're ugly, and starts swearing at you or screaming at you or doing things to like making you feel uncomfortable, spiking your adrenaline. And then he puts his hands on you in such a way where he's crossed the boundary, and your job is to execute the self-defense techniques that you've just learned in class. Now your classmates are screaming at you, knee him in the groin, go for the eyes, go for the throat, and so on. And as you're hearing all of this and you're like going after your attacker, right? Your attacker's like getting beat up by you. There's an immediate connection between your mind and your body and the adrenaline and the self-defense techniques that you've learned in class. That's adrenal stress training. It's great. Now check it out. Out of 60,000 graduates for model mugging, 800 of them who were threatened with assault stopped their assailant with just their voices and body language. That is an 80% success when attacked without actually having to get violent, okay? And then incidents reported back where 221 graduates who were in a physical attack, 214, which is 97% successfully fought off their attacker. Yeah. So when you take a class like this, it really teaches you the fundamentals in such a way where you're not going to forget what you learned. And out in the real world, when you are actually under that adrenal stress, there's a mind-body connection in such a way where you're going to be like, bam, eyes, throat, groin, knee, instep of the foot, whatever. Okay. So fighting stance. First and foremost, what is this? This is international for fight, boxing, challenge. That's not what she's doing. She's doing this. This, in my mind, is don't hurt me. I'm ready. I don't want any trouble. I give up. It's a bunch of things. It's a non-offensive way to be standing. Okay. And the moment that somebody comes into your personal comfort zone and you feel something is wrong, hey, what's going on? I don't want any trouble. What can I do for you? And if they do come in on you from here, eyes, throat, right? Elbow, knee to the groin, and so forth. The getting ready stance. Gouge to the eyes. Yeah. Well, have you ever had something stuck in your eye, an eyelash inadvertently poked in the eye? Like just playing around with the child and it went goink, like it hurts. Everybody's been injured by having something stuck in our eye at some level, okay, whether on purpose or not. And that if you can't see what's going on, you can't function and you're off balance. So you gouge the bad guys in the eye, whether you're on top of them, they're on top of you, you're in front of them, bang, to the eyes. Very effective way of debilitating your attacker. You don't need to understand years of martial arts to be able to understand how to physically debilitate another human being. You just need to understand what parts of your body you can use to debilitate parts of their body, whether you're attacked from the front, the side, or behind. Gouging the eyes is effective. Going for the throat. You hear it in sports, you hear it in business, go for the throat, Animals know to go for the throat. You have your larynx. If you kind of tug on your larynx a little bit, it doesn't like that. Blunt force trauma to the throat, to the larynx, makes it very difficult to breathe. It's a very sensitive area, okay? So blunt force trauma, palm heel, karate chop, punch, forearm, elbow to the larynx, whether you're on top of them, they're on top of you, standing up, effective. Trachea, down here, push down there, back there, reach your finger behind the breastbone. Sensitive, sharp point to the trachea. Trauma, doesn't like that, right? You don't have to be physically strong in order to go for the throat. Sides of the neck, carotid artery, jugular vein, like all those veins popping up. Blunt force trauma to the side of the neck, karate chop, palm heel, forearm, whatever, knee. Sends messages of pressure to the brain thinking it's having a stroke and or it shuts the body down because it thinks it's losing blood in the body somewhere. Okay, go for the throat. And then a slap to the groin. Obviously more effective on men than women. Somebody comes up behind you, puts you in a bear hug of sorts. You start whacking them in the groin area, you're going to do some damage. And then knee to the groin in close quarters, keeping your center of gravity, a knee to the groin can be very effective. And then if you have them attacking you from behind again, you start slamming the top of their foot, stomping the top of their foot. We have 27 thin bones in our body, in our foot. And those bones can be broke or cracked by stomping on them, debilitating half their support system. And then ground fighting. Most of us think that if we end up on the ground, we are at a serious disadvantage. Not necessarily true. If you use the earth as leverage to push off on the ground and kick using the strongest part of your body, which of course is your legs, kick to the knees and kick to the groin from the ground using the earth as leverage, you bend their knee in one direction or the other, you've destroyed their, knee, and hit them in the groin, they're going down. Brutal. Okay. If they got a knife, if you can't run, drop to the ground and fight, with your legs, the strongest part of your body, protecting your upper torso, which essentially is your kill zone. All right. All right. Protection weapons. So you have options. There is a number of different options for protection weapons. There's non-lethal, non-aggressive, non-lethal, aggressive, lethal, aggressive. Non-lethal means it's not supposed to kill, like a pepper spray, stun gun, baton, a personal alarm. Not non-lethal, not supposed to kill, right? Lethal, obviously, guns and knives, supposed to kill. Non-aggressive means, it doesn't hurt at all and can't be used against you, like a whistle, personal alarm. Those are non-lethal, non-aggressive. It's an option. Not crazy about the option, but, noise is designed to be a deterrent or to bring attention to the situation. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Non-lethal aggressive, pepper spray, stun guns, batons. Aggressive, again, it hurts, even if it's just temporary, right? But it can also be used against you. Pepper spray against you, hurts. Stun gun against you hurts, but it's temporary. Not supposed to draw blood, right? Lethal, aggressive. That is guns and knives. If you're going to carry a gun for self-defense, fine. But it's not enough just to go to a shooting range and do target practice. It's not just enough to take a safety course. You need to know how to fight with the firearm. Combat training with the firearm means you're learning how to use a firearm under adrenal stress. All kinds of training in that regard. If you're going to carry a knife, take a knife fighting course. A knife fighting course is one where you actually, learn to fight with a blade. It's not easy to just stab somebody, okay? And then there's a tactical pen. Tactical pen is the thing that you see in the middle there, the tall device right there. Tactical pen is an actual functional pen that's sharp on one end and sharp on the other end. It's designed to break glass and break bones. Carry this thing in your hand at all times, all day long. And if somebody grabs you, you start whacking them. Like, let's just say that this is a tactical pen. It's not, it's just a ballpoint pen. A tactical pen is aluminum, with the diamond cut grip on it. You start whacking to the eyes, whacking to the throat, the groin, the chest, whatever. You're going to do a lot of damage. Okay. Tactical pen. Google it. They're on eBay and Amazon for like $5, $10. All right. So hold on. 12 tips for real estate agent safety. All right. So we're getting into it now. After this, we will take a 15, 20-minute break and then get into the data security stuff after that. So we've all heard about the real estate agent who has become a crime statistic. Most of you figure it won't happen to you, and chances are you're right, it won't. However, real estate is considered by security experts and law enforcement to be a high-risk profession. Agents are mobile. They usually work alone. They visit unoccupied properties, and they frequently interact with strangers. There you go. So what do? Well, number one, be suspect of everyone. Yeah. So there isn't any benefit in being paranoid. However, being a little guarded can keep you from getting into a vulnerable situation. Don't just be wary of a man showing up unaccompanied. Expect them to show up in a nice car, well-dressed, and maybe with a wife and kids tagging along. They might have a business card saying they are a doctor or a lawyer. Don't let your guard down. A business card is the easiest form of fake ID. Now, it might not be to the second or third meeting that they decide to make their move. They like to gain your trust. You feel comfortable carrying cash and jewelry, and then they decide it's safe to move in. So really, I am aware of too many situations where the agent had worked with the client for a few days before the bad guy attacked. So the moment that something seems wrong, something is wrong, okay? ID and pre-qualify at your first meeting. This is a big one for me. Whether you're at the office or meeting at a property, get some form of ID. It is to your benefit that a client buying a home is pre-qualified. Someone who's pre-qualified by a lender and meets with the office is less likely to be a predator. Open up a file with their identification, including information such as license plate, employer contact information. Look, even if they call you, they email you, whatever, say, before I'm going to meet you at the house, you got to text me a picture of your business card. Oh, I'm not sending you no, I text you a picture of my ID, driver's license. Oh, I'm not sending you my ID. Well, that's a red flag, you know? So you really want to get something on file. Let them know you're safety conscious, security conscious, right? Meet them in the office, get a pre-qual document, text, emailed, in person. Why bother working with them otherwise? Have a pre-qual document so that says, you know, I'm qualified. Well, a bad guy probably won't be. Even automobile dealers these days, you go to a dealership these days, like the salespeople don't often get in the car with you anymore. They take your ID, they run a credit check while you're out with the car. They're not going to put their salespeople at risk the way you are at risk. They understand that stuff. All right, stay in communication with the office. Before showing a property, make it known to your coworkers, a spouse, or friend where you're going, when you'll be back. Have them call you at a designated time to check in on you. Have some type of a check-in, check-out file. Use various GPS apps and so forth. Here's the deal, right? I think it's important that people know where you are throughout the day. Plain and simple. Spouse, kids, coworkers, whatever. Here's my itinerary. This is where I'll be. This is who I'll be with. Fine. Great. Something happens, can't find you. They have an idea where you might be. Apps, various apps out there that provide location, right? Alert apps and so forth, right? I think there's benefits to those apps. Should you rely on an app to protect you? No. Is it a good layer of protection? Definitely. Okay. Have a plan for safe open houses. Bring a friend, take a cellular phone, spend a few minutes considering all the vulnerable points within the home and how you escape if necessary. You know your exits, right? You're by yourself. Engage in what's called security theater. Couple shows up, require them to stay together. You know, say to them, listen, just so you know, in a couple of minutes, my partner Rocco is going to be here. Rocco's like 6'5", 240. Believe me, you'll know Rocco. Putting enough doubt into the couple's mind or the individual's mind to attack you because Rocco will be there any minute now, okay? Require them to stay together, put away jewelry boxes and medicine cabinets, narcotics and so forth. We'll talk about more of that in a minute. Use predetermined code words to alert your office in case of distress. So what is that? You know, have Emily leave the papers is an acronym for help. Hey, could you have Emily leave the papers? Or, yeah, it's in my red folder for 123 Cherry Street, which is code red. Really, the moment that you sense danger, what should you do? Yeah, leave, okay? Conduct safe personal marketing to a stalker. Your photo on a sign or in print is a personal ad. He determines if you have the look he is seeking. Keep photos professional opposed to overly attractive. I know that even sounds weird, but you know, I see agents where they have like photos on their business card where it's like the shoulder picture and it's like lady, what are you selling? You know, like, what are you really selling? You want to be professional opposed to like, you know, trying to sell sex appeal. Just know that like bad guys are irrational, unreasonable. They don't see the world as you and I do. You should be able to have any picture you want and dress the way, whatever way you want. But in some cases, you can attract the wrong attention. You know what I mean? All right. So separate business from personal. Your home phone number and address can give a predator everything he needs to stalk a prey. Stalk his prey. Use PO boxes and voicemail systems. Keep your personal phone number unlisted. So what's that all about? It means that there should be a barrier between business and personal. Use a Google Voice number that points to your home phone or cell phone. You know, it can't be reverse searched to your physical home address. Okay. Implement the buddy system. Predators thrive on isolation. Whenever possible, bring along a coworker, the mortgage broker, title company, and so forth. Dress for safety and success. Don't wear expensive jewelry. A $35,000 diamond buys a lot of drugs. Dress professional opposed to too provocatively. Again, you know, just be careful. And then scarves and loose-fitting flowy styles of dress can give attackers something to grab onto. I don't like it when you wear scarves around your neck. While they're professional looking, they could be used to kind of control you and choke you. Sorry. And then wear shoes you can run and kick in. If you wear shoes you can't walk in, that's a problem. Okay. Don't take predators for a ride. I gather you don't pick up hitchhikers. You know, driving a client to a showing is a great time to determine your client's needs and move along the sale. Don't allow the client to ride in your car if you don't know who they are. Properly identify them. Make sure this is a client, you know. Make sure you've taken the necessary precautions ahead of time. Put your seatbelt on, right? Don't ever go to the secondary crime scene. What does that mean? It means that when you get in the vehicle, if they say, hey, no, we're not going to this location, we're going to my location, which in that case might be what's called the secondary crime scene. If you do what they say and go to the secondary crime scene, that's where they get more control. That's where they sometimes identify the body. So if you're driving with a gun on you, what are your options? Please, right now in chat, tell me if you are, you know, behind the wheel, you got your seatbelt on, they got a gun on you. If you don't know what the answer is, put I don't know in chat. If you have an idea of what you might do in the driver's seat with a gun on you to avoid going to the secondary crime scene, put in chat, what would you do? What would you do if somebody had a gun on you and they said, no, 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 we're not going to Main Street, we're going to Elm Street, which is like an isolated dead end or behind a building or whatever. What are your options? I am waiting. What are your options? What could you do? Right? Guy's got a gun on you. You're driving. You got a seatbelt on, right? Giara, slamming the brakes, says Evelyn. Act like something is wrong with the car, like a flat tire. Get out of the car. Okay. All right. Those are two pretty good options. Sure. Yeah. You know, anything else? I know we got a few more people in this call. I want to get a couple more answers. Slamming the brakes is one option. Definitely going to bring attention to the situation, right? You could definitely say something's wrong with the car. You could definitely, you know, wreck the car. Thank you, Casey. So these are all options. Casey, that is an extreme solution to an extreme situation. One that, you know, I'm cool with. Here's the deal, right? Like I said, you don't want to go to the secondary crime scene. If you wreck the car, make sure you do it like to another parked car or a tree. Not like a telephone pole, not in a gas station. I mean, maybe the side of a building, that's up to you. I don't know. The point is, you don't want to go to the secondary crime scene. If you could do something where the airbags go off, it calls law enforcement or an ambulance or fire, great. Okay. Drive to police station. Yeah. Thank you, Kyra. All good options. And if they ever demand you get in the trunk, do not get in the trunk of a car. Nothing good ever happens to anybody who gets in the trunk of a car ever. All right. Pay attention to your intuition. Trust your gut. I mean, we talked about this. If something seems wrong, something is wrong. And then know how to defend yourself. You are definitely worth fighting for. We don't think about hurting others because we've been conditioned not to. However, there might be a time in life when it's necessary to defend yourself. Go for the eyes, throat, groin, instep of the foot, and so forth. And listen, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, hitting back. Sometimes you hit first. And listen, some people just need hitting, right? All right. So as a CSI protection grad, you're going to get pro tips for home sellers and pro tips for home buyers. These booklets are designed to help you to educate your clients on what you see in front of you right now. Okay. These booklets have a place for you to put your business card. We can print your information right there and send these off to you. Okay. This is a brochure, a handout, hey, you should do these things, right? Which is sitting down with your client and saying, listen, as a CSI protection grad, I understand risk. And listen, risk is something that we deal with every single day. There's really not much at all to worry about when it comes to selling a house, but there's a few things you should know because, you know, sometimes things happen. For example, let's take a walk through this house right now, right, before the showing, right? And, you know, like you can say to them, sometimes, you know, homeowners might come in with kids, right? Young kids in some cases. And let's just say there's a pair of keys sitting on the counter. That kid might, you know, be attracted to those keys, pick them up, put them in their pocket. Now where'd your keys go? You don't know if a kid took them or an adult stole them. So, you know, like just to be safe, let's put away the keys. Let's put away garage remotes. Let's put away jewelry in jewelry boxes. And that means not putting your jewelry box in the drawer up top. It means putting it in the safe of your car. And then things like credit cards, blank checks in your office, mail. See the kids' gaming systems? Why don't you like wrap them up, put them in a box, put them, you know, in a drawer somewhere, electronics of any kind, tablets, mobile phones, art, any other valuables that you don't want stolen or potentially broken, weapons of any kind. I know in certain parts of the country, you know, like maybe down where you're at, that guns are relatively common, exposed out and about. You know, I was in Texas not too long ago, and they're like, yeah, 70% of the houses you go into, there's guns everywhere. It's like, all right, well, don't you think it's a good idea to like get rid of them, put them in the trunk of a car? Don't make it so accessible. Like, really? You know, I love guns, but why are they out and exposed and readily available? Okay. Knives, like blocks of knives on the kitchen counter, family photos, prescription drugs, pets, you know, get rid of them all. During a showing, I love security cameras. Buy them. They're everywhere. Right? Hook them up to Wi-Fi. Have signage that says identification required, signing in required, video surveillance in use, and so on. After the showing, right? Check out door locks, door hinge pins. Bad guys actually will take the hinge pins out of the doors to pop the door open later on. And then check all windows, locks, and screws. Look for any anomalies, you know, anything ajar, deadbolts, make sure that they're closed, locked, secure sliding doors with bars, you know, before and after, and turn on if you have turned off motion lights. Okay. Basic stuff. Like all of this is common sense. And we believe, you know, and our agents, our graduates do this. They provide these booklets to, you know, the public, to their clients, because it's an added value, which, you know, the majority of the agents aren't doing that. If you do that, they're gonna be like, oh, she's watching my back. Like he's watching my back. Like he cares about me and, you know, wants to make sure that nothing happens, like, because things happen, you know? Okay. All right. So all of this information, this is all in the booklets, you know, and then some. Hide personal information, remove weapons, family photographs, all in-depth explanations. Okay. Prescriptions, pets, so forth. All right. All right. So this bulleted list essentially caps off module 1, recognize risk. Don't worry about security, but do something about it. Know that criminals are seeking the path of least resistance, and those who do nothing to protect themselves or family or business are the ones targeted. Isn't that common sense? Appreciate security. It's not about being paranoid. That's ridiculous. It's about being aware, smart, and most of all, appreciative of the various thought processes and systems that must be put in place to prevent crime. Situational awareness. Be aware wherever you are at all times. This state of being is relaxed, calm, and in control without worry or fear. You are able to see more, sense more, and evaluate each situation as it arises in real time. All right, good. And then personal security plan, as the saying goes, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Taking proactive steps to ensure your security and that of your family and business is fundamental to living a fulfilled life. And then no evil. Recognize the 1 to 3%ers, know that pure evil exists and there are millions of them. Predators, serial killers, thieves, sex offenders, and active shooters live in our neighborhoods, but don't worry about it, but do something about it, okay? And finally, ignore fatalism. People who say, why bother? If they want to break in, they'll break in, and they're the next to be victimized. Take action. Imagine if the military or law enforcement had the same fatalist attitude. You know what I mean? Right? Like law enforcement says, oh, you know, we work hard all year long. We're taking, you know, Christmas week off. Or the US military worldwide, right, said, you know what, we work, you know, 24/7, 365. We have been for, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of years, hundreds of years. We're taking December off. Oh my God, can you imagine, right? Russia would own us. Know the fundamentals, understand your surroundings, know how to defend yourself, and become an observer of people. overcome civilized conditioning. It's not enough to put these systems in place. You must overcome the desire to be nice. Weapons. Understand that your brain fundamentally is your best defense weapon. But if you choose the device, be prepared to use it under adrenal stress, and then security infrastructure. So finally, if you're building a home, you start with a blueprint and then a foundation, framing a roof and windows and all the finishing touches that make it livable. Security requires the same well thought out infrastructure. Securing your home, apartment, children, teens at college, and your stuff is easy once you make the effort. Okay. All right. So let's break. Right now it is 10:30. Let's come back at 10:50, give you 20 minutes. And that will give us still, we might get out before noon. All right. So 10:50, I will see you in 20 minutes. Thank you. Okay, everybody, and welcome back. So let's begin session 2 of 4. Remember, tomorrow, session 3 is identity theft protection prevention, and then social media security and online reputation management. However, right now, for the next, looks like 1 hour, we will be discussing session 2, which is defending against the data breach. All right, let's get into it. And as usual, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, by all means, chime in. I mean, this is all about you and your clients and your information and your security. And, if you've ever had an opportunity to engage really an expert in these topics, to ask them any and all questions, now is the time. I've been doing this now since, well, really 1995. And so, yeah, I've got quite a few years under my belt with this particular topic. So 27 billion records exposed in the first half of 2020. That's kind of a big deal. In 2019, there was like 17 billion records. In 2018, 12 billion records. And, it just keeps getting worse. It's not getting any better. And knowing what to do and how to protect yourself and your clients is paramount. That's what this presentation is about. So cybercrime may be the world's largest economy. It has become the world's third largest economy as of the end of last year. When you think about it, like the organized drug trade and oil and everything else, like it's kind of a big deal. Financial phishing attacks take off, malware declines. What's that all about? In the past year, the number of digital threats increased by nearly half as phishing swamped malware to become the most dominant attack technique. So what's happening is security is actually becoming easier. It's becoming easier to secure your data. It's becoming easier to secure your network, to secure your devices, right? Antivirus, anti-spyware, anti-phishing, firewalls, identity theft protection, and so on. So phishing skirts all of that security. Phishing goes around all that security. And basically it's hacking humans. You know what phishing emails are. We'll speak more about that and how to prevent it. So here, social engineering is a collection of techniques used to manipulate people. Essentially, it is designed to get people to divulge confidential information. While similar to a confidence trick or simple fraud, the term typically applies to trickery for information gathering or computer system access. In most cases, the attacker never comes face to face with the victim. So P.T. Barnum once said that there is no patch for human gullibility. What does that mean? So there is no patch, P.T. Barnum once said that there's a sucker born every minute. I say there is no patch for human gullibility. And yes, there is a sucker born every minute, but I think that we're all gullible, and I think that we're all potential suckers, which means that I think that all of us at some point probably have been suckered. I mean, heck, like if you've ever had somebody, like a significant other cheat on you, they betrayed you, like that's awful. And I know I have, and it hurts. It hurt. And, I was suckered. And if that's happened to you, yeah, like you believe somebody and they suckered you. Like that's just one example, making a bad investment because somebody said, hey, do this. And either like they just didn't know any better or they were trying to scam you or whatever the case is. Like we're all capable of being suckered because we trust. Trust is by default. We talked about that. So bad guys say, you're going to lose something. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose, love. You're going to lose access. You're going to gain something. You might gain money. You may gain love. You might gain access, right? They utilize fear and greed and sex, desire, They function under the principles of influence and the psychology of persuasion. Basically, like they study sociology, what makes people choose and decide. They do it via email, telephone, and person. They pose as you, a spouse, a bill collector, a bank, a utility, a fellow employee, government agency, and so on and so forth. The bad guys convince us that they are, trustworthy. And once we are convinced, then, we hand them our credentials, we hand them our social security number, we hand them our credit card numbers, our banking information, our investments. Arizona Wendy's and Jack in the Box hit by prank calls instructing workers to break restaurant windows. What's that all about? Well, be aware every single time the phone rings, you and your clients. If you work at a restaurant, for example, or any other business with windows, take note, don't listen to anyone who calls and tells you to break every window and door you can lay your hands on. And Burger King and Jack in the Box and Wendy's, they all played Simon Says Demolition. So what happened? So the phone rings, and be aware every single time the phone rings, and tell your clients, be aware every time the phone rings. Yes, hi, this is Jack Smith calling from the local gas company. Listen, we have reason to believe that one of your gas stoves, a pipe broke in the building somewhere, and it's releasing gas into the atmosphere, probably so strong you can't even smell it. Listen, if you don't get out of there right now and break all the windows and release the gas into the atmosphere, that building is going to explode. It's going to level the block. It's going to kill thousands of people. Get out of there right now. Break those windows. Release that gas into the atmosphere. Click. And the managers all ran outside, broke the windows, got everybody to participate, took chairs, everything. Why? Why? Because they're stupid? Because they're naive? Because they're gullible? No. Because they're human. Because they want to help. Because they care about people. Because they have good hearts. Think about that for a second. Were they tricked? Yes. Does it make them dumb? No. They just wanted to do the right thing. And that's the thing with most of these scams. Most of these scams revolve around people just doing the right thing, like the victims doing the right thing. Bad guys twisting the truth. Like I said previously, trust is inherent. It's by default. We are required to trust as human beings. You would not be able to drive down the street going north and cars coming the other way going south, and the only thing separating you is a double yellow painted line in the ground. You wouldn't be able to get in your car if you didn't automatically trust other human beings. It's the same thing every time an email comes in, every time the phone rings, and heck, every time somebody knocks on the door. All right. It doesn't make you stupid or naive or gullible. It makes you human. But as long as you're paying attention, you should be fine. Free spoof call. What is this? Caller ID spoofing. There are services that you can actually log on for free or for a small fee that'll easily change your caller ID. Try our free spoof card demo and easily change your caller ID display on a different number to protect yourself or pull a prank on a friend or steal an identity. Yeah. Don't trust the phone automatically. Abandoned flash drives called bad USBs. Would you, walking down the street in a parking lot, see a toothbrush on the ground? Would you pick it up and stick it in your mouth and use it? No. You get a virus, something bad, right? Same thing with a thumb drive, a discarded thumb drive, also known as a bad USB. A bad USB is a USB drive that's infected with the virus. Bad guys drop them in, the parking lot at work, parking lot at the bank, in front of a, defense contractors building, facility, factory, whatever it might be, nuclear power plant, whatever the case is. An employee picks up that thumb drive, plugs it into their network, bang, they get a virus that's designed specifically for that organization so the bad guys can get backdoor access to those computers. Yeah, bad USB. If you pick up a thumb drive off the ground, properly dispose of it. Keyloggers. What's this thing? The original USB keylogger saves over 4,000 pages of text, 100% undetectable. Works instantly, no installation needed other than plugging it into the back of the device. So basically, if you look at the left side of the device, looks like a thumb drive, right? The left side, the male end USB, the right side, the bottom end, female USB. So you plug the thumb drive into the back of a desktop and plug the keyboard into the back of the thumb drive. Now, this device is designed to record everything that's plugged into the keyboard all day long. And then when it's installed and then removed weeks or months later, whoever installed and removed it and has it in their possession now has access to everything that was plugged into the keyboard over that time frame. We see keyloggers in libraries all the time, in business center PCs, internet cafes. We see them in schools where kids plug them into the back of the teachers' PCs to get grading or testing information or to change their grades. We also see them in small business office parks. So if you have a cleaning crew coming in after hours to clean, what's to prevent anybody in the cleaning crew from unplugging a keyboard and plugging in a keylogger and piggybacking the keyboard into the keylogger? Check the back of your devices, all right? So in the pro tips for home buyers and home tips for home sellers, here's information on telephone scams, caller ID spoofing scams, bad USBs, and keyloggers. All right, good stuff. So let's talk wire fraud, CEO fraud, spear phishing, social media phishing, SMS mobile phishing, and phishing simulation training. All right, check this out. This might be the most important slide for this entire presentation in regards to protecting money. So pay attention, please, these next few slides. So cyber criminals hack realty deals and sneak out with $100,000 or more. Your closing funds or your client's closing funds might be heading to a cyber criminal. While no one knows the exact number of the victims or the extent of the problem, NAR told the Chicago Post or the Washington Post that this scam has hit hundreds, if not thousands, of home closings. It's become serious enough that in March, the Federal Trade Commission issued a warning to home buyers that basically the real estate industry is insecure. Yeah, you. As for what's fueling this trend, some experts they spoke to, me, pointed to the relatively lax security in the world of real estate compared with other financial industries. I said it was just a matter of time until scammers recognized the opportunity to target real estate agents and their clients. Currently, most industries have experienced large data breaches and have put systems in place and have become hardened. That means the real estate industry and others become the path of least resistance. Unlike the entire financial industry, who have encrypted communications, the real estate industry is a hodgepodge of free email accounts and unprotected communications. Yes. So once the bad guys get inside your email communications, they function as you, or the title company, or the buyer for that matter, or the escrow company, right? And once they're in, they send wiring instructions to the buyer, benefiting the bad guy. I'll explain more. First, hackers are stealing closing funds by intercepting lawyer client email, real estate agent client email. Here's an example of a young family loses life savings of $775,000 in an escrow wire fraud scam. The victims had received an email asking them to wire funds into escrow. They had received another email from the escrow company a few days earlier, and all their personal and bank account information lined up. So they were convinced that it was legit. Everything in the second email matched their closing statement. Okay. So what happened here? Either the buyer's email was compromised, which means the bad guy logged in or hacked or phished, and then posed as the escrow company, created, escrow1@escrowcompany.com. And the original email was, escrow@escrowcompany.com. So they posed as the escrow company and, just communicated with the buyer, utilizing all the information that the buyer already had on file, but just changed up the wiring instructions to benefit the bad guy. Once the bad guy was inside either the service professional's email or the buyer's email, it was game over, okay? Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran loses $400,000 on an email scam. The 70-year-old mogul's bookkeeper received an email about an invoice to approve a payment on a real estate renovation, which she does all day long. So what happened here? Let's just say the admin's email is compromised. Bad guys have the username and the passcode, they log in. Once they're inside the admin's email, they just go to, all the various folders and they find the bookkeeper and they send the bookkeeper an email saying, hey, we got a contractor in Brooklyn working on a building for Barbara. He hasn't been paid in 60 days. He's threatening to walk off the job. If you don't pay this bill today, Barbara is going to be upset if the guy walks off the job. Bookkeeper pays the bill because that's what bookkeepers do. They pay bills. And when they take instructions from Barbara's admin, of course, they're going to pay the bill. There's a huge problem here. Let's discuss it. Prevent money wire scams. Email and phone communications can be easily manipulated or spoofed to seem legitimate. It is extremely important that email is looked at with a cynical eye. Beware. Never wire money or pay a bill based on an email or a phone call without first making contact with the payee you have on file to confirm the legitimacy of that transaction. Email. Tell your clients. In this document, in the home sell of the pro tip book, it says, in the process of buying or selling a home, there'll be many emails to and from your real estate agent and other service professionals, including attorneys, brokers, title insurance companies, home inspectors. Discuss with your client the nature of email communications and what links may or may not be required to click on, what documents may or may not be required to fill out. Tell them point blank, call me. Under no circumstances, at no time in this process, should the client or service professional engage in a money wire transfer unless the client specifically speaks to the real estate agent in person or over the phone to confirm the legitimacy of the money wire transaction. So it is our belief from our research, everything we've done, all the people who have graduated from the CSI Protection Certification Program, and everything that we know about the marketplace, being in real estate for decades and decades, two people ultimately lose when there's wire fraud. The buyer, of course, loses the most. Second in line, generally, is the real estate agent. The real estate agent loses because they lose their commission. The broker loses because they lose the commission. Real estate agents are perfectly positioned to make sure wire fraud doesn't happen to their buyer. As long as you engage the buyer in such a way where they understand that at no given point in time are they to engage in a wire transfer unless they specifically speak to you, you now have an opportunity to determine if there's actually a wire fraud taking place to begin with and who ultimately initiated it and whether or not it's legit or not. And listen, I don't know what the process is in Louisiana, whether or not you ever have anything to do with a wire transaction at all as a real estate agent. You may have nothing to do with that. I don't know. Doesn't even matter. Some states I know that like real estate agents are directly involved in making sure wire transfers happen. They might initiate it, whatever the case might be. Whether or not that's in your state, it doesn't matter. Let's just say it's not a thing in your state. The buyers don't know that. The buyer's just going to do what you tell them or what the bad guy tells them. So if the bad guy gets inside your email and functions as you to the buyer, oh man, tell them, call me, email disclosure. Clients should always look for language in the real estate agent's email communication stating, wire fraud is real before wiring any money. Call the intended recipient at a number you know is valid to confirm the instructions. However, that disclosure does not necessarily indemnify you, nor does it necessarily stop wire fraud from happening because, people don't read like they should. They're in a hurry. Even though it's in big, bold, red lettering, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to adhere to the instruction because they might not even read it. Have a conversation with them. So I'm going to show you exactly how this all happens. I'm going to explain to you exactly what it looks like and how bad guys get inside your email or the buyer's email. All right. So we're going to start talking email security and password management. So here it is an example of an astonishing 773 million records exposed in a monster data breach, including over 21 million unique passwords posted to a hacking forum. Okay, what's that all about? Well, what it's about is that bad guys have the credentials for at least 21 million people. Okay, let me show you what that is. All right, so a couple things. Just give me 1 second. Let me pull something up. All right. All right, just give me 1 second. All right, that is not what I want. Just give me a minute. Where'd my mouse go? Hold on. Hold on 1 second. My apologies. I just lost my mouse. That is the craziest thing. Huh. Whoa. Technology. Come on now. This is nuts. All right, I need a minute. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, there it is. Wow, that was crazy. All right. No, don't let that happen again. I don't know what happened. All right. Okay. All right. So first, okay. All right. Check it out. All right. Pay attention. This is important. So right now we're on my company's website, protectnowllc.com. All right. We have a tool that essentially allows you to search approximately 13 billion stolen records. Yeah. So we have indexed 13 billion stolen records downloaded from the dark web. Okay. So go to protectnowllc.com, not right now, just watch, and scroll down to the bottom where it says, check if your email has been breached. Email checker. Click on that. All right. Our free email checker and check your address. I type in ROBERTSICILIANO @gmail.com and I click search. And your email and possibly your password have been stolen in the following breaches. So what does it say right here? Apollo. What happened here? The tool is not cooperating. Let me see. Okay, so right here, invalid argument. Okay, so that's a problem right there. All right, so let's go to have I. All right, let's do this. Okay, all right. So we type in ROBERTSICILIANO @gmail.com. Let's see if this works. Okay. All right. Pawned in 34 data breaches. Okay. So we scroll down. All right. Here's that 2,800 separate data breaches. Apollo in July 2018. The sales engagement site was hacked. 126 million unique email addresses. A Bitcoin forum back in 2014. Bitly in 2014. Cafe Mom in 2014. Cove in 2020. Right. Had what does it say? 100 and something million. Daily Motion, Discus, Dropbox in mid-2012 had 68 million records compromised, including email addresses and passcodes. Epic in 2021, email addresses of what? What does it say? I can't see. 15 million. Forbes, Photolog, GateHub, Gravatar, Last.fm, LinkedIn. Okay, let's talk LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn, 2016. What does it say? 164 million email addresses and passwords. Okay. So that means that my robertsiciliano@gmail.com as a username to log into LinkedIn got hacked on LinkedIn. My associated passcode on LinkedIn is also in the hands of criminals. That means bad guys can log into my LinkedIn account and my Last FM and my MGM Resorts and my Gravatar and my Gate Hub and my Photolog and so forth. So now my job is to change the passcodes for all those hacked accounts. Mind you, I didn't do anything wrong. LinkedIn screwed up. Last FM screwed up. MGM screwed up. They got hacked and my information got compromised. So all I got to do is change the passcode for each account. Here's the problem with this. If my LinkedIn passcode is the same passcode for my actual robertsiciliano@gmail.com address, the bad guys can also log in to my Gmail. If they log into my Gmail, they then see all the emails coming and going in my Gmail account. So when we talk about hacked these days, often it's the bad guys just log in because they have our credentials, because they're on the dark web, because they've already been stolen. They've already been exposed. And if the bad guy gets inside your Gmail and communicates with your clients posing as you, and the client loses money, you're going to get sued. Your broker's going to get sued. Because if they can determine that the breach was you, that's a problem. So what do? How do you protect yourself? Well, number one, never ever use the same passcode across multiple accounts. You got to use a password manager. And number two, make sure that you have a different passcode for each account, and use two-factor authentication. So let me show you how all that works. All right, just give me a second. All right, just give me 1 second. One second. Hold on. All right. Let me get you to if I do a quick search right here for password manager, right? Again, just search PASSWORD. Password manager pops up in search, click enter, right? You see ads for NordPass. You see ads for LastPass. You see Google's password manager. You see Wired password managers. You see articles for PC Magazine for the best password managers for 2022. That's where I like to send people. Go here, click on that, right? You scroll down, there are 10 picks. You got Keeper, Zoho, Bitwarden, LastPass, 1Password, LogMeOnce, RoboForm, Password Boss, Dashlane, and so forth. They've done all the research for you, okay? Now you check prices, you check, does it work on Mac or PC or both? Does it work on Firefox or Explorer or Edge or Brave or Chrome or all and so forth, okay? I have been using a password manager since 2004. So we're going on what, 18 years? And I love my password manager. It's the single best use of my time and my money when it comes to data security. I use my password manager on my Windows machines, my Macs, on my iPhone, my iPad, you name it. And I have a different passcode for every single account. My password manager facilitates the ability to have a different passcode across each account. If you have questions, comments, feedback, now is the time. Additionally, on top of having a password manager, I have two-factor authentication set up for all of my critical accounts, especially my email. So for example, when I log into email once a month, logging into Gmail, I need to add a second factor into the Gmail login. What does that mean? It means that I get a one-time text message once per month of when I log into Gmail. So Gmail sends me a text message with a 6-digit code to finish logging in. So not only do I plug in my Gmail address as the username and my passcode, which is different across every account, and I use it via my password manager, I plug it in via my password manager, I then get a one-time text message from Google that I enter upon accessing my Gmail, which means that even if the bad guys have my username, which is my email address, which why wouldn't they have that? Like, it's everywhere. And if they have my passcode, which could have been hacked on the dark web, right? They would have to have my mobile phone in their possession in order to access my account, because that's where I get the text message. So you should have two-factor authentication set up for all of your critical accounts. So that's pretty easy to do, actually. So how do you set up two-factor authentication? You Google it, right? So you search Gmail two-factor on the first page of search at support.google.com, turn on two-step verification. You could do the same thing for, say, AOL. Help.aol.com, add two-step verification. You could do the same thing for Yahoo two-factor, right? And there you go. Help.yahoo.com, add two-step verification for extra security, and so forth. So two-factor authentication, utilizing a password manager, and utilizing a different passcode on each account is fundamental to proper password hygiene. If you have questions, comments, and feedback, now is a good time to ask, okay? That's password management, all right? All right, next, hold on. 1 second. Okay. In addition to password management, when it comes to email security, make sure that you go into your settings menu, say in Gmail or whatever email you use, and check out forwarding and pop IMAP. So for example, in forwarding and pop IMAP, right, if you look at my forwarding and pop IMAP, you see I have disable forwarding unchecked. I have forward a copy of incoming mail to Priyanka. So who's Priyanka? She deals with all of my social media stuff. So I have emails automatically forwarded to Priyanka every time LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, send me a communication. It goes automatically to my inbox, to a filter, into a folder, and to Priyanka, who then administrates that. So in my settings menu in Gmail, I set up automatic forwarding for specific emails. I can also set it up so that all of my emails automatically go to Priyanka and to me. Now, why am I showing this to you? Because if a bad guy gets inside of your email right now, or yesterday, or last month, or a year ago, they could be reading every one of your emails right now, and you not even know it, because they're getting all of your emails forwarded to them. So I did this presentation in Iowa to real estate agents and showed them how the forwarding settings work. And one of the agents in the back of the room, she's on her laptop and she's checking her forwarding settings. She comes up to me at the end of the presentation, all freaked out, because there was an AOL address in the forwarding section, which was of a guy that she had dated 3 or 4 years back, who she had to get a restraining order against. So for all that time, he was monitoring all of her communications. So probably like one morning or one night when she was in bed, he just went to the kitchen table and got onto her laptop and just plugged his AOL address into her forwarding section. Yeah, that's a real thing. So pay attention to that. All right. All right. So there you go. Okay. So spam folders, pay attention to your spam folders, because at any given point in time, you could have spam messages in there that, look legit, but aren't. So when I say pay attention to them, that means, like, if you're going to go in them at all, which I suggest that you don't, pay attention to exactly what you're clicking on and why. So if you look at my spam folder on any given day, you'll see Costco member, redeem your $50 Costco bonus, a final warranty for your automobile, You see Walgreens gift card, Bank of America message, Amazon gift card, Amex message, Target rewards, and so forth. All, businesses that I do business with. And it's easy to fall to these phishing lures if you're not paying attention. First of all, Amazon, whoever, no one's sending you a gift card, an unsolicited gift card for that matter. Nobody is, Bank of America is not sending you messages that are going to end up in your spam folder and so forth. So as long as you're paying attention and really avoiding your spam filter, you generally should be in pretty good shape. We talk password managers, you know what to do there. We talk two-factor authentication, you know what to do there. So passwords are compromised because of social engineering, which we have discussed, through phishing, which of course is when you get a, scammy email made to look legitimate, might look like it's coming from a colleague or a client for that matter. Password reuse, you can't do that any longer. Insecure and weak passwords, that is simply not an option. Passwords like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, millions of people use that. Passwords like passwords, millions of people use that. Password managers, definitely the way to go. Best use of your time and money. Two-step verification, there's no reason not to, okay? And then no passwords. What is that all about? Well, what that means is that I know that there's people on this webinar today that either the device you're on right now, a mobile phone you have in your possession, or maybe even like at the office or at home, you got a desktop, you got a tablet, you got like a secondary mobile, you got a laptop, whatever, that is not password protected. And you're like, well, I don't need a password on it. Like it never leaves my house, or, it's not that big of a deal. Well, yeah, it is a big of a deal, because if your house is burglarized and somebody steals that laptop or desktop without a passcode on it, what access might the bad guy have? If your mobile phone doesn't have a password on it and it gets lost or stolen, what access might that person have on your mobile phone? To what? Everything. So it's really important to password protect all of your digital devices without fail. All right. So managed security service provider, what is that all about? So third-party providers offer managed security services for the oversight and administration of a company's security processes. Managed security service providers, also known as MSSPs, conduct either in-house or remotely, typically via the cloud. MSSPs offer a wide range of security services, from setting up infrastructure through security management or incident response. So an MSSP, and this might be for, say, your broker, what large or small, right? They offer cybersecurity monitoring and management. They provide managed firewalls, intrusion detection, virtual private network software, vulnerability scanning, antivirus services, spam blocking. They provide 24/7 services to ensure your security posture. They engage in system changes, modifications, and upgrades. They reduce the number of operational security personnel, which is, a good thing. They reduce hiring, training, and retaining. And essentially, they are there to watch your back. There is a fee-based service, a managed security service provider that can range anywhere from $500 to $5,000 to $50,000 a month, depending on the size of your organization. Okay. Some of these organizations might also be known as a V as in Victor, or V as in virtual, VCISO. A virtual chief information security officer is a small firm, generally, that are CISOs or CIOs or CTOs that are on their own. Small firms that will do all of the heavy lifting that an MSSP does, but they do it on a smaller scale for a lot less money. So if you're a broker or you're considering an MSSP, you might want to consider a VCISO, which is much more affordable. My team can assist you in that endeavor. We can point you in a direction. All right. Cybersecurity insurance. Let's discuss. So as a small business handling sensitive or personal information, you need to be aware of cybersecurity insurance, what it does and what it does not do. So cybersecurity insurance is there for you to watch your back the same way automobile insurance would watch your back, or how life insurance would watch your family's back, and so forth. Now, here's the thing. You can easily get cybersecurity insurance. It's everywhere. It's the fastest growing segment of the insurance industry right now. And if you do a quick search on cybersecurity insurance, you can fill out a quick form and lay down a credit card and immediately get cybersecurity insurance and be assured for up to like $2-3 million for not a lot of money. And every single month, your credit card is going to get charged for that cybersecurity insurance. No problem. They'll charge you every month. No problem. However, let's just say you file a claim. Okay, so you've been paying for cybersecurity insurance now for 2 years, and you have a data breach. And that data breach means like all your client information is stolen. People's identities get compromised, credit cards get hacked, the whole thing. You put a claim in. The first thing that the cybersecurity insurance company does is they send a forensics investigator to your office to do forensics on your machines. They want to know the nature of the breach. So if you're going to put in a claim for $2 million in fraud that they're going to have to pay for, they want to know, how did this happen? And so when they send their forensics investigators in to do a forensics examination on your machines, and they determine that, oh, well, the reason why you had a data breach is because, you know, you're using free outdated antivirus. So you really weren't protected at all. Or they say, oh, you're using like a Windows 7 computer, and Windows 7 isn't even supported by Microsoft. Or you're using Windows XP for that matter. You're using an old operating system. You haven't run an update in years. That's why you got hacked. Here's the deal. If the cybersecurity insurance company comes in and they determine you're like really bad regarding security, you know, when you signed up for our cybersecurity insurance and you agreed to our terms of service and terms of conditions, in those terms of service and terms of conditions, it specifically stated, and you signed off on it, that you were required to maintain the most amount of robust information security required by state and federal law. And our forensics team has determined that you didn't even meet the basics because you're using free antivirus you haven't updated in 2 years, or a Windows XP or Windows 7 machine that Microsoft no longer even supports. So, you know, even though you paid your premium, your bill every month, we're not paying you because you violated our terms of service. It's really not much different than, for example, if you have, you know, automobile insurance and you go out drinking and driving and you're inebriated and you kill somebody, you're going to have a difficult time getting the insurance company to pay for what happened because you broke the law. And the automobile insurance companies be like, you were drinking and driving. You're on your own, buddy. We're not covering you. You know what I mean? So if you're going to invest in cybersecurity insurance, you need to know what you get yourself into and whether or not, you know, you're secured to begin with. And that's where bringing a virtual chief information security officer would come in handy. Bring in a virtual team to do a scan on your network to essentially tighten it up, to prepare you for cybersecurity insurance should you want to make that investment. All right. If I have time, I'll go back and read what the direct monetary losses are if we have time. But in the interest of moving on and getting to some more stuff, let's talk about this bulleted list. So social engineering, of course, which we have exhausted, is recognizing social engineering scams every time the phone rings, an email comes in, or somebody knocks on your door. Look, the con man or con woman engages in a confidence crime to convince you They are trustworthy. Every time the phone rings, every time an email comes in, every time you get a text message, anytime anybody knocks on the door, whatever, do not be bamboozled. Recognize risk. Know when somebody is reaching out to you in some way to fleece you. Pay attention to your intuition, pay attention to the dialogue, pay attention to typos, pay attention to their requests, and so on. Hardware. This is important. Make sure your devices, your hardware, your software, like your laptop, your desktop, and so forth, PCs, laptops, mobiles, modems, routers, and any peripherals, printers, and so forth, are new or newer. Old hardware, which is considered 5+ years old, sometimes lacks the internal resources to run current, more secure software and firmware. So like I had said previously, you're on like an old laptop running Windows 7. Well, if you were to try to upgrade that Windows 7 machine to Windows, say 10, it's not going to function properly. It's just not. It's going to slow. It's going to bog down. It's going to be messy. So really, you need to update your hardware, and you update your hardware to a newer, say 2022 laptop or desktop or Windows or Mac. You're going to get the latest processor speed, chip technology, and so forth that can support the newer operating systems. Windows 10, Windows 11, Catalina, Mojave, whatever that Mac operating system might be, and so forth. It's kind of like an old, say, Apple 6 iPhone is not going to support iOS 15. It just won't. You can't even install it. So old hardware needs to be updated in order for newer, secure software to be installed. Software. Keep all devices, operating systems updated with the latest security software updates and critical security patches. So that means basically, you should be on Windows, like I said, 10 or 11, Mac, Catalina, or Mojave, iPhone, what is it, like 15, 16? I don't know what your Macs are doing these days, but yeah, update I'm sorry, I don't know what your Androids are doing these days, but update your Android devices too. And then security software, install and run paid versions of antivirus, anti-spyware, anti-phishing, and a firewall. That means, paying for your antivirus. Free antivirus only gets you so far. Paid, you get the bells and the whistles. The anti-spyware, the anti-phishing, the firewall, and so forth. With free antivirus, you may have to manually update, whereas with paid, you're going to get automatic updates. Most people don't do software updates well. So for that one reason, I tell everybody to automatically update your paid antivirus. That way you get all the bells and whistles and that much more layers of protection. And then Wi-Fi security. Set up a secure Wi-Fi connection in your home or your office. That means password protected Wi-Fi. VPN, also known as a virtual private network. This is a software program for your laptop or mobile device, and it's data that basically protects your Wi-Fi, your data on open free Wi-Fi. So for example, if you're at a hotel, if you're at an airport, if you're at a resort, wherever you might be, at home for that matter, and you're on unprotected, free, unencrypted Wi-Fi, that means that anybody within a 300 to 500 foot range of your home or office, or the hotel for that matter, can jump onto your machine and get access to your data on open, free, unprotected Wi-Fi. A VPN, a virtual private network, essentially locks down your data because it encrypts your connection on that Wi-Fi connection. Easy enough. Okay. Yeah. VPN. I'll show you how to get access to one of them in a minute. Encryption. Protect your data with encryption software. I'll show you what your options are for that in a moment. Tracking. Install and set up and enable tracking software for lost or stolen laptops and mobile phones. I'll show you examples of that. And backup. Backup and sync all of your information on redundant internal and external local hard drives. Backup externally to cloud-based backup sites. Backup all data on iPhone and Android mobiles. I'll show you examples in a minute. passwords. We kind of beat this topic into the ground, but it's important. Set up and run a password manager software and eliminate password reuse by having a different password for every online account, which should be a no-brainer for you. And then set up two-factor authentication, which we beat into the ground. Set up two-factor or two-step authentication for any and all critical accounts that deploy it. I have two-factor authentication for my Gmail, for my Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and eBay and Amazon and PayPal and you name it. Every account that will accept two-factor authentication, I have already set it up. And IT vendors, we talked MSSPs and cybersecurity insurance. We definitely discussed that as well. All right, we have about 8 minutes left to give you guys that 50-minute hour, 10-minute break per hour. All right, let me show you a couple things. Inman talks about suspicious emails from Douglas Elliman, Chairman Howard Lorber exposed as phishing scam. So it says right here, I mean, it's not that complicated. A phishing scam from Lorber's company email address was detected a week after a hack and data leak at Cochrane. Okay, so bad guys posing as Howard Lorber get an email, you know, everybody at Elliman gets an email from Lorber saying, hey, you know, we need your whatever, credit card number, social security number. We need you to wire money to an account, whatever the case is. All the bad guys need is for one person to respond and they got you. Okay. So when you hack the CEO, it's also known as whaling. You know, there's phishing and there's whaling. When you hack the CEO, when you phish or whale the CEO, and bad guys pose as him or her, it gets ugly pretty quickly. Because, you know, people want to do their jobs. All right, we talked two-factor authentication, VPNs. So where do you get a VPN? Google it. So you search VPN, also known as virtual private network. And once you do so, here you are with ads. Here's an ad for the top 10 VPNs, Microsoft, NordVPN, ExpressVPN, and so forth. Has an organic results for NordVPN. What I like to do is go to see how Forbes has 10 best VPN services. How, what is it? PC Magazine, again, the best VPN services for 2022. There you go. Just like the best password managers for 2022. And so here, PC Magazine does all the heavy lifting. Proton VPN, NordVPN, Surfshark, TunnelBear, iVPN, Mullvad VPN, and so forth. And they tell you, you know, how much they work, what the licensing fees are. They discuss, you know, what browsers, what operating systems they work on, and so forth. There's no reason not to use a VPN, especially when you're out and about using free, unprotected Wi-Fi at the hotel, the resort, airport, and so on. Okay. Let's talk about encryption really quick. So out of the box, when you bought your iPhone, when you bought your Android, when you bought your laptop, Mac, when you bought your desktop, PC, whatever, there's a wizard that you go through that walks you through the processes of setting up that device. And in that wizard, they're asking you, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Recommended, not recommended, recommended, not recommended, and so forth. In the setup process, using the wizard, they will ask you, do you want to set up full device encryption? Sometimes they recommend it, sometimes they don't. The point of device encryption is if your device is lost or stolen, the bad guys can pull your hard drive out. And when they pull your hard drive out, they can plug it into their computer and access all of your data. If your device hard drive was not encrypted, then yes, they can access everything. So encrypting your hard drive is a matter of going through some prompts and, you know, checking off a few boxes so that if in fact, you know, your device was ever lost or stolen and somebody took the hard drive out, they couldn't access the information on it. So how do you set up encryption for Windows? You Google it. I search encryption Windows, and right there, support.microsoft.com, device encryption in Windows. So if you don't know if you ever set up that wizard, if you ever set up encryption, then you want to do a quick search. You can also search encryption MAC. And there you go. Support.apple.com, protect your Mac information with encryption. All right. Hold on one second. So let's hold on one second. Let me just show you. Hit the back button really quick. So by searching VPN, you end up on PC Magazine's the best VPN services for 2022, right? Searching encryption, you end up with encryption Mac, and you see support.apple.com or encryption Windows, okay? And you see support.microsoft.com, encryption device in Windows. You search VPN, and there's that article, okay? And then tracking, right? You want to track your devices in case they're lost or stolen. So right here, laptop tracking, right? To track your laptop, you can download basically Prey laptop tracking, or for your iPhone, you can use Find My. For Android, you have other options as well, okay? As far as backup is concerned, check this out right here. I found this service a few years ago. It's called Polar Backup. So just, go to polarbackup.com, go to products, go to personal, click on personal, right? And then click buy now. And you see, hold on, let's say you want to do a yearly subscription. Unlimited. Man, if that's 80% off, wait a minute. If that's 80% off, now hold on. 80% off $24 a year is ridiculous. Okay. It's already $2 a month. 80% off of that is like, what is it, like $4 for the first year? That would be crazy. Okay. So what I would suggest you do is head to polarbackup.com, click on personal, go to annual, and for essentially $2 a month, you get unlimited cloud storage, unlimited backup. That's an absolute brainer. Okay. So y'all, today was good. You got, all the goodies for modules 1, which is personal protection as it pertains to preventing physical violence and theft for you and your clients. Module 2, session 2, defending against the data breach, cybersecurity. So the social CSI is social, cyber social identity and personal protection. Today, you got data security and personal protection. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Time, we will see you for identity theft protection and prevention and social media security and online reputation management. All right. Anything else? You guys want to chime in? Cindy or Rhonda or anybody?
I'm good. If anybody doesn't have any questions, and I think we're okay in meeting the required time. I have been taking notes, even though I've kind of been engaged otherwise. A lot of this is common sense, and a lot of it is caused by we just become complacent. Just remember tomorrow that you got to sign back in at 9 o'clock and be online to get your full 6 hours and to get the certificate. I know myself, I'm going to be in and out because of some obligations. So hopefully I'll be an exception to the rule and can get the recording, because I really want day 2 to me is more important for myself. But if y'all don't have anything, thank you for registering. Please tell the friends in the office that they're really missing something good here. We'll see if we can have an opportunity to do it again, maybe next year or the year after, and build it around a safety protocol.
Yeah. And, before you guys take off, that link right there that I just plugged into chat, it may or may not work. I might provide it again to you tomorrow. If you could click that, and if that goes out to our Google profile, if you could put in a review for today's presentation, hopefully it's a nice review, that would be great. If you don't want to do that today, I'll probably send the same link again tomorrow. So thank you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Okay.